Oh, my name is Silindile Malinga, aka Slee. If you are new to this channel, baby, you are welcome. You are most definitely welcome. So today I'll be speaking. I actually don't know what to title this video about, but really I've wanted to share this for quite some time, but I just didn't have the words or the English to share it. But I am gonna try my best to not explain, but just really share the obvious when it comes to the sovereignty and the mighty power of God. I'm gonna be speaking from the book of Job. So the book of Job is known to be a book about struggling. You quickly skim through the book, you will miss the message. So I was guilty of just knowing that Job struggled. He lost his children, he lost his wealth, and he should have lost his wife, but because they are one, she was still around because baby, she was not saying the right things, to help with the situation. And his friends were also not very helpful with, encouraging him. It was a mess. But the part that I want to share in this book of Job is the part where God speaks to Job in chapter 38. So majority of the book, his friends are giving him feedback. Well, first of all, his friends are counseling him. Then his friends are giving him feedback about why they think he is suffering. When people say, I think maybe you're going through this because of what you did back in the day. I don't know. Maybe you're going through this because you haven't done 1, 2, and 3. I don't know. And meanwhile, it's not the case, right? But anyway, so the book of Job, chapter 38, is a book where I was completely reminded of how much of dust I am as a human being. How much I do not know, how I cannot explain or even fathom to understand how God created this entire earth. And many times in history, people have tried to explain, but they just don't know. We don't know. So this book really puts me, and it should put you, in your proper place. Because most of the time in the book of Job, obviously Job is inquiring of God why he's saying on all the losses that he has felt, and if God could speak to him, help him understand like what's happening here, like why am I going through so much. And then finally, towards the end of the book, guys, the Lord finally speaks. So I'm going to touch on a couple of scriptures. I'm just going to do a bit of narration here just to express really how I felt when I was reading this chapter. Okay, you are dust, to dust you came, to dust you will return. There is only so much us as human beings can really fathom or try to understand. Not philosophy, not a certain person, not some intellectual, not your own little cocoon that you think you can explain how this earth came to be. The fact that this was articulated like this in the Bible when God spoke, it goes to show the maker of this universe knows what he was doing. The fact that I can speak to you and have faith that my heart is not like the air in the earth is supporting me to speak like this. I'm not inhaling anything funny that will cause me to just, faint there and there. God's creation of the earth is supportive of our existence to live on earth. The fact that we can move with motion, the fact that we can hear, things that we don't know how my ear came to be, how my mouth, those things that you just pass by because they've just always been there. You don't even want to figure it out because you have the luxury of always having it there. But God actually starts challenging Job because he's speaking a lot now. Remember, this man has gone through pain. So now it's like, listen here, I'm here. You've asked me to come here. So brace yourself. The chapter says, brace yourself. and answer me like a man. So I'll start reading the book for you guys. Like I've told you, I will narrate this. I think I'm gonna name this to the line, around the lines of, you have no clue. So stop trying to figure God out, because God in his sovereignty is just who he is. He's that big, okay? Chapter 38, it says, when the Lord answered Job from the whirlwind. God is actually coming from the whirlwind. This is what I do, okay? He said, who is this who obscures my counsel? Who is challenging my counsel with ignorant words? This is God speaking to Job. Get ready to answer me like a man, okay? When I question you, you will inform me. How many times us as human beings think like we can advise God, like maybe God, do it like this, because we think we know everything. We can inform the maker of us, the maker of the universe. Anyway, in verse 4 it says, where were you when I established the earth? This is me narrating now as Job. I'm assuming Job was like silent because he had no answers to these questions. And he had no clue. We will read later on how he actually, repents and asks for forgiveness. Because he even says like, listen, you clearly are that person. You are clearly that big. I apologize, okay? I once heard about you, but now I know you. And that's important to pause there, because sometimes, if I'm being honest, I used to be someone that hears about God, that hears about people's relationship with God, that heard portions of the scripture, but didn't actually know who God was, his character, his nature. He's mighty, he's gentle, he's peaceful, he's a healer, he's a friend that sticks closer than anybody, okay? I didn't have an appreciation of his awe. He's mighty and yet he is so gentle, okay? So this chapter, amongst other chapters towards the end, I'm going to touch on a few scriptures. I'm just going to give you guys a glimpse of how much you and I have no answers for some of these questions that God is challenging Job with. So he says in verse 4, where were you when I established the earth? I couldn't be anywhere, Lord, because I came after the earth. So I wasn't there, okay? Tell me if you have understanding who fixed its dimensions. Certainly you know. God is a bit cheeky here, okay? Like, clearly you're the smart one here. Do you know the dimensions of this earth? And the question again, you would say, I don't know. Like, Job literally does not even respond in this chapter. It's God just asking the questions. And then he says, who stretched a measuring line across the earth? Couldn't be me, Lord. Guess it was you. What supports its foundation? Or who laid its cornerstones? Angas, I don't know. While the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Who enclosed the sea behind the doors? I don't know. When it burst from the womb. Yeah, guys, like, how can we even explain how the sea decides to be silent and then all of a sudden just boom, the waves, right? And God is asking him, so, like, do you know how this is possible? Do you have an idea? Like, Job, since you're the smart one here, do you have an idea? And then he says, when I made the cloud, let me read this again. Who enclosed the sea behind doors when it burst from the womb? When I made the clouds its garments. Ooh. The garments for the sea are the clouds. The sea is covered by the clouds. the clouds are the ones that guide the sea and its motion. But God decided to make that happen, right? He as I'm speaking now, I'm thinking of like he was able to say, these are you cloud, you're gonna help the sea with its ability to regulate, okay? And then he says, when I determined its boundaries and put its bars and doors in place, when I declared, you may come this far. So God is saying here, she's still talking about the sea. So he's saying, when I decided to make the clouds the sea's garments, like when I also decided to make it stop to a certain place. So God created the sea for it to be able to stop on earth, and then the land continues. Do you and I know the thought process, the genius in all of that? I don't. And then he says, when I determined its boundaries and put its bars and doors in place. So the boundaries of the water will stop here, right? They'll stop here. And then he says, when I declared, you may come this far, but no further. Okay, only God knows that. Like, he was the one that was there before the beginning of time. Like, listen, guys, Job is literally silent in all of this, right? And then, so let me read this again. When I determined its boundaries and put its bars and doors in its place, right? When I declared, you may come this far and no further, you proud waves, stop here. Have you ever in your life commanded the morning or assigned the dawn its place, so it may seize the edges of the earth and shake the wicked out of it? Guys, I don't know about you, but how many times have you wanted for the night to end and for the morning to come, but you in your humanity do not have the power to decide when the morning comes and when the dawn comes? It is God. So God is asking Job, because he clearly knows, he has answers for stuff. He says, like, so have you ever in your life commanded the morning? Of course not. I have no idea. I just know and have faith that it will be morning, right? And then he also says in verse 16, have you traveled on the sources of the sea, or walked its depths of the ocean? Have gates of death been revealed to you? No. Angazi, I don't know. We all don't know when we are going to die. So I have no idea when you and I are going to die. Only God knows. So he's asking Job again, have the gates of death been revealed to you? Of course not. And then he says here, where is the road to the home of the lights? Like, is there like a M1, N2 freeway, R1, 52 to heaven? Is there like a direction part? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? I don't know. And then he says here, who cuts a channel for the flooding rain or clears the way for lightning to bring rain on an uninhabited land? Listen, guys, all these questions really, what I'm trying to emphasize here is that God is the one who created this earth. He knows the dimension. He clearly, has that idea of understanding why he should make the ocean stop at a particular point and for it to be deep as it went on, really putting Job and myself, and I'm sure is putting you in place in terms of Yazin. I just came to be on earth and I didn't know how this beautiful earth became. And then he says here in chapter 14, I'm not, if I had to read chapter 38, 39 and 40 and 41, it will take like an hour. So I'm just trying to quickly go through so I don't I want to drive the point here. In chapter 40 it says, then the Lord answered Job, will the one who contends with the Almighty correct him? Let him who argues with God give an answer. So if you and I have the guts to argue with God, like we're seeing in today's world, where people are challenging God's order, God's creation, the order of things that He has done, and yet they don't even have an answer for the certain things that are the makeup of this entire universe, this earth. We are all still trying to figure it out. If you can have an answer for all these questions that God is asking you, don't you think you would know? You would know everything. You will know when people die. You will have the answers to everything. No, if you did, but you don't. So sit down. And then he says here, then Job answered the Lord. I love this, because then Job realizes, okay, listen, I've been silent for 2 chapters. I have no idea. So he says here, so now I'm trying to bring it home, and just how I've expressed this in the video of how we don't know. And that's why we need to leave everything in God's hands to the one who knows. I rather trust an all-knowing God to an unknown future. I recently heard that. And I think it's so important to put spiritual things in their proper perspective, because you will end up chasing demons in your confusion, thinking you want to control the order of God, only to find yourself in a ditch. God is the only one who knows, okay? So I'll read a bit of what Job responded to God. He says, I am so insignificant. How can I answer you? I place my hand over my mouth. And then he says, and I will not reply twice, but now I can add nothing. He was honest. He doesn't know. And then the Lord answered Job from the whirlwind. God coming out of the whirlwind. In Elijah chapter 1 King chapter 19, it says that God wasn't in the whirlwind, God was not in this earthquake, but God was in the still small voice. God, in his providence, in his sovereignty, in his omniscience, he does whatever he wants. He can come through when whatever elements that he needs to come through to drive the message home, he can come through. Oh God. And then God, the Lord says, get ready to answer me like a man when I question you. You will inform me. Would you really challenge my justice? Would you declare me guilty to justify yourself? Do you have an arm like God? Can you thunder with a voice like this? Adorn yourself with majesty and splendor, and clothe yourself with honor and glory. Pour out your raging anger. Look on every proud person and humiliate him. Okay, so God is just asking, listen, because you think you know everything, and and this you really see the honesty of God, just him really challenging us as well in today's age. Because Vele, you humans, you think you know everything, but tomorrow, I can do this. Challenge me, answer me, give me an answer, and we do not have an answer. And then I want to just touch on the last chapter 42, because for me, it just really cements the humility posture, the calmness now in Job, in not probing an answer from God. His realization that he has no idea, he does not have a clue who he is dealing with, who God is, and he comes to a revelation that he, what, Lord, I heard about you, word on the street, this is who you are, this is what I heard on the street, but actually I had no idea who you are. So he says that in chapter 42, beginning verse 1, then Job replies to the Lord, I know that you can do anything, and no plan of yours can be thwarted. You ask, who is this who conceals my counsel with ignorance? Surely I spoke about things I did not understand, too wondrous for me to even know. You said, listen now, and I will speak when I question you. You will inform me. And then in verse 5 it says, I had heard reports about you. This is my favorite scripture, guys. When somebody thinks they know you, but then they don't know you. So he's coming to that realization, listen, God, I heard reports about you, but now my eyes have seen you. Okay, I've seen you. Therefore, I reject my words and am sorry for them. I am dust and ashes. You and I are nothing but dust and ashes. To dust, Adam became. That's how we as man became. And obviously, out of the rib of a man, woman became. But at the center of everything, we are but dust. We do not know. So when you try to assess your life on the truth, there is only one truth, and that truth is from the truth, the way, the life, and everything else in between. God is the only one that will help you in your predicament. God is the only person who is sovereign, who is all-knowing. Stop holding yourselves to a standard of another human being who is but dust. Hold your standard to God. Stop getting impacted by dust. You are also dust. Remind us of our perspective and where we should place ourselves, everything on this earth. And it's not permanent. It is not permanent. So you shouldn't hold your truth to some other human being who is not anchored by the God of truth. You shouldn't anchor yourself by the things God has created, whether it's the tree, whether you are praising the tree or everything that comes in the tree. Now you're praising God's creation instead of praising the creator of you and the tree and the animals. Human beings, in history, a lot of times people have tried to reduce the creator by praising universe, by praising things of the creation, because they want to remove themselves from the obedience of actually connecting themselves to the creator, because God is a God of principles. He has standards. And I honestly think the reason why many times in this earth people remove themselves from the God of the universe is because they lack the maturity and the discipline to actually honor the God of creation. So if you are feeling confused about life and you are being challenged by the things of this world, go back to the creator. Everything in this book, everything in the Bible, always centered back to what God is able to do in your life. Everyone in this book, when they were doing their own thing and then they came back like prodigal sons and daughters in their particular situation, when all is said and done, they came back to God. Even when Samson in the book of Job, God and his sovereignty always reminds us that, go ahead and do your thing. You can go ahead and try your little mixes, your little escapades, your little adventures. But at the end of the day, all of us are going to come back to him, because he's the only one that is able to give us the answers that we need. But sometimes I always wonder, God is looking at us like, let her go fetch her testimony, but she'll be back. And I wonder how he feels when we betray him, when we don't live life according to his will and purpose for our life. He just looks at us like, let them go. They're gonna come back. They're gonna come back with a story, and it's gonna be for my glory at the end of the day. But sometimes if God has given us the revealed will for his life, he's given you a shared revelation, why go through the struggle when you can just live in complete obedience? I'm not saying that I've never dropped the ball. Most of my life, the reason why I'm here, the reason why I have grown in my relationship with God is because I was busy trying to fetch testimonies, thinking that I knew better than God, until all roads leading to my options were like, this is not working, and clearly I don't know, these people don't know, my little mixed whatever, it's not going to lead me to the fulfillment that I'm looking for. And then God revealed to me who he was when I started reading the book and studying the Bible for myself. So Miss, Mr., Mrs., whatever your title is, do not question God's creation. Do not question God's will. He is God, as Psalm 115 says. He sits on high and he does whatever he wants. And whatever he wants is not to it's not to give you pain and you make you feel, I don't know. It's all part of his plan. Everything that God does is all part of his plan, and that's why it's so important. Once you realize God's sovereign plan for every human being on this earth, even when things do not work out, even when pain, even the loss of jobs, children, God will restore. After his realization that he is but dust, and he asked for forgiveness, and then he forgave his friend, God gave him double. I think he gave him more. He got children. His wife became pregnant again, and he gave him 10 children. The children that he lost, he got them. Well, he didn't get the children, but he got his children back. He got his wealth back. He was even more wealthier because he realized his need of God, and that it doesn't end well when you want to challenge God. So I know this video is long, but I had to read these chapters really to give you guys an indication of, listen, do you know when to click a button and it's morning? No AI, no technology that I've heard of is able to do that, okay? Do you know it? Technology doesn't know what that means. Somebody else who's bigger than you and I knows it. So I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I hope you realize that God is madly in love with you. He is after you, and do not question God, okay? In Romans 28, is it 28? The famous chapter in Romans where it says that God works everything for the good of those who trust in the Lord and are called according to his purposes. I'm not saying when something bad happens, I should be rejoicing in the Lord, but I need to reflect and say, oh, that thing that's happening, it's about, it's all around God's purpose for my life. I need to shift my perspective and see how I need to make peace or have faith in the sovereignty of God, that he will make things, work out for my good. Okay, so have an awesome day. Don't forget to let me know if you found this video eye-opening, because I remember when I read this chapter, I was like, what are you gonna be asking all these questions that I cannot answer? And I was like, huh? And then when Job was like, I have no words, I'm gonna put my hand over my mouth because I cannot answer you. Tell me what you guys think of God's dialogue with Job. If you have a different perspective, and just maybe your observation about how really us as human beings do not have the power to control somebody's will is witchcraft. God has given us all free will. So when you watch and hear about people going to see somebody so they can control a specific outcome, that person is a witch, okay? Point blank, period. Let's not give it fancy words. You cannot control somebody's will. When you do that, you are operating under witchcraft. Even God cannot control our will. He gave us the free will to choose whether we follow him or we follow the devil. Okay? Have an awesome day. Bye.